No. That is not how we do bike builds here. So yes, if you have seen any of my previous build videos, you know that I like to provide a little bit more information than just slow jams and slider shots. So this will be no different. Actually, this time the plan is basically to make the most comprehensive bike build or bike assembly video I've done this far, and like I will provide the receipts for every single gram, well, maybe apart from grease and stuff like that. But all the receipts will be available. So if you are a gram inspector like me, definitely check the build sheet down in the description. But before we get into the build here, I just wanted to talk about this thing. Maybe you're wondering what the hell is this all of a sudden. And for the last year and a half or so, in the back of my mind, I've been on the lookout for a new gravel frame to do something fun with. And it was basically three requirements that I really needed the frame to fulfill, to even consider it. And that was internal frame storage and tire clearance for days. That was the main two. The third one is kind of, I did not want to spend a fortune on it. And I've paid big money for frames in the past, but I feel like for an off-the-shelf bike, I'm done paying like 5,000 bucks for a frame these days. And I thought I had found the frame early in the year when Argon 18 released the new Dark Matter. And that definitely looked very promising until I realized they didn't provide a frame set for it. And I even contacted them and asked if that was in the plans, and they said not anytime soon. So yeah, and then this thing started hitting all the feeds, the ARI Shafer version 3, I think it is. And at first I was like, ARI, what the hell? I don't even know if I've seen ARI before. And then when I looked into it closer, I realized it's actually a rebranded Fesari, which I have seen, but never really paid much attention to. It's not really more on the multi-bug side of things. But I gotta say, that rebrand to ARI from Fesari must be one of the best rebrands I've seen in a long time. Much prefer this new branding for sure. And when I looked closer, that is frame set, $2,000, still a lot of money of course, but a lot less than 5,000 for example. And when I looked at the color specs, they had this light, I want to call it sand, they call it something white, something, but it's very sandy or like gray stone or whatever. So this really fit my preference there. And when you look at the specs, they have the internal frame storage, which was a requirement. They have the tire clearance for days. 2.25 will fit this. Not that I will probably use that for the foreseeable future, but still I wanted to have that kind of future proofing. But there was a few bonuses I really appreciated as well. The standard size seat post where you can mess around with, UDH hanger, it's always a bonus. The BSA bottom bracket is, basically top of my list there. I have all the mounts that I want, and even those that I don't want, like fender mounts, I don't need those, but they're there anyway. We have internal routing, but nothing fancy, proprietary, standard FSA or data in my case, which I switched to. I will get into that soon. It's also claimed to be relatively lightweight, which we will get into in a bit. So I put my order in maybe like 2 weeks after this was announced, and I was expecting this to take like a month or so before it arrived, but it actually came pretty quick, which I realized when I looked at the delivery label, that this actually was shipped directly from the factory in Taiwan instead of US, where I assume the majority of bikes and frames are shipped from. That also meant it came in kind of unbranded packaging and not the neatest packaging. Nothing was damaged or anything like that, but as you can see here, it was not really what I expected. I assume that if you buy this or complete bikes that ships from their own headquarters, I'm assuming that will have branded packaging and a bit more neat, enjoyable unboxing, so to speak. But if anyone else out there has bought an ARI bike and had different unboxing experience than me, be sure to let me know down there. But I gotta say, I'm pretty happy it came directly from the factory, because that means less import duty for me. Well, at least that's what I think. I haven't received my import duty bill from FedEx yet. I'm expecting it to come soon. They usually come a few weeks after when it comes to FedEx. But speaking of that unboxing, there's two things to note, I think. Once I dug through the box, in the bottom there was actually a seat post. Yes, an ARI branded seat post that I didn't expect to be included. And yeah, a nice surprise. I won't use it, of course, because grams, you know. The other thing that's worth noting is they don't include what do you call it, like a storage pouch for the internal frame storage. I reached out to them after I received the frame, and they said that that's not included in the frame. They will release something next year that you can buy, but it should not be very hard for me to find like a pen case or something that will fit nicely in this. Hopefully by the time this bike build is done, I will have something to show you there. All right, I have some notes here because, yeah, let's get into some numbers. So ARI claims that this frame in medium size, which this is supposed to be 928 grams. That would be the black one with the colored top tube. The white one or whitish one will definitely be heavier, and it definitely was. This frame came in at 1043.9 grams, and that is a naked frame without the storage door, without the hanger, seat collar and stuff like that. The fork they claim is 491 grams. Mine came in at 531 grams, which it's a bit higher, but again, this paint will add a few grams for sure, and this is definitely not cut either, as you can see. But yeah, it's pretty much in line with what I expected. I have never received a frame that I actually hit that claimed weight. With that said, as a frame package, I actually already shaved down, how much was it now? 138 grams of the whole package that it came with. Of course, the biggest part of that is the seat post. The ARI seat post there was 186 grams. I swapped that out for an Elite 1, which I've done a video on the slayers grams for. You can see that. That is 119.7 grams. So a good 66 grams saved there. Then we have the seat post clamp. Like I said, very happy that I have a standard setup there, which meant I could take the ARI seat post clamp, let's see, that came in at 20.5 grams, and I swapped that out for an Elite 1 carbon clamp, which is 9.8 grams. A good 10 gram saving, and I'm actually pretty impressed with this clamp. It looks very nicely made, and even has that lip on the top to keep it slipping down too far. I mentioned the headset. The frame comes with an FSA headset, similar style to this Data one that I switched out, and those are pretty much the same weight actually. But on my Data headset I actually have a 3D printed covering here that Lucendi helped me out with, and that made this headset about 6 grams lighter than the FSA one. So that's what I'm running with, of course. The FSA expander and top cap as well is pretty hefty. Expander 29.3 grams, and the top cap is like 11.3 grams. I switched that out for some AliExpress parts. Expander 13.8 grams with the top cap coming in at 80.5. So yeah, that's a good chunk of weight there as well. Another little neat weight saving trick, because like I said, this frame comes with mounts all over the place. If you disregard the bolt cage bolts, we still have about 7 under mounts on this top tube, down tube, fender mounts, and those 7 bolts actually added up to 20 whole grams. And what did I do there? Yeah, I swapped out all those bolts for rubber plugs, and that ended up weighing only 1.7 grams. So that's, yeah, what is that? That's about 18.3 grams saved just on bolts. The mounts on the fork, which is like, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mounts of some kind there. They actually came with plastic plugs instead of screws, so there was really not a lot of weight saving there, but still I switched out those for rubber plugs as well. They just looked a bit neater. But yeah, 1 or 2 grams saved there. The bolt cage bolts I can't really switch out for plugs, of course, but I can switch them out for some lighter aluminium bolt cage bolts. So original bolts was 8.1 grams. switch out to the aluminum. These are, when it starts, these are actually carbon tie balls that I have from previous builds, and that actually ended up saving me 4.4 grams. Sweet. Now, I'm not gonna go out and buy like a $500 through axles for a $2,000 frame. There would be like 25% of the frame just to spend on through axles, so that's not gonna happen. I did, however, have some axles in stock that I've used for years now. I had this carbon tie rear axle that actually was the perfect length for the setup of this frame. Unfortunately, as you might know, the standard UDH thread pitch is 1 millimeter thread pitch. If you've been following on the Slayer Gram channel, I've been experimenting with UDH direct mount hangers, and actually got some there with the 1.5 thread pitch, which is the normal one that everyone should use, really. That would be nice. But I could just take the end screw from one of those direct mount hangers, and switch it out to fit this hanger, and then I could use my carbon tie through axle, which is 31 grams. Might not be the lightest in the world, but still like lighter than the ARI through axle, which was 41 grams, if I remember correctly. The front axle, I will just use the standard ARI axle because I don't have any alternative at this moment, but it's always fun to have stuff to think of it in the future. And one last modification I did, and it's on the storage door because I couldn't help myself. This is originally 66 grams, but the stoppers are fastened with some M5 bolts, and I couldn't help myself. I switched those out for titanium bolts just because I had some on hand. So I got that down to 62.9 grams. Yeah, every gram counts, as we say. So like I said, 138 grams before I even start building this thing. Good times, good times. So let's get to building, and like I said, I will show receipts for every single gram as we go along with this. And yeah, let's have some fun. The first step for me is always take care of the fork and cut this thing so we can start assembling and not have to worry about taking it apart later to do that. So that's the first trick. That's one thing I quickly want to just bring into attention. Maybe you're a roadie like me, coming from that kind of geometry where you're talking about like a 73 or 72 head tube angle. This has a 69-degree head tube angle. So what you need to think about, if you compare your road bike with a normal geometry, say that's a 73-degree head angle, the equivalent stack to the bar would actually be like having a 3-degree stem on the road geometry. I hope that made some kind of sense. For me, this is a pretty high stack frame like most of these are, so I will go as low as I possibly can with this headset at least. And if I'm in the future want to say go to an integrated handlebar, which I probably won't because of that slack hand angle, means like if I can't adjust the angle of the bars, I won't have the drops where I want them. So that's why first and foremost we'll go with a separate stem and handlebar, and now we just mark the top of the handlebar with a pick, like so. By the way, this stem that I use here is a classic Cali Uno stem, but you can actually get these now without any markings or blank stems and pre-tuned with titanium bolts. So you don't have to worry about that. And the price is not that much higher either, so yeah, there you go. I can remove the stem. And from my mark, I will do an actual cut mark, 1, 2, 3, about 3 mil below, 3 or 4, something like that. So that's where I will do my actual cut. Actually, that's about 4 mil, but yeah, always double check your measurements. Just put on my cutting guide. You can see the line, hopefully. Anyway, I will head outside because I don't want to get carbon dust all over my bike room. And I'm not lucky enough to have a garage, so we'll head outside to cut this off. And doing it with spraying some water will keep all the dust from going all over the place. if they excuse my ghetto workbench. That's pretty painless. There you go. That should be good enough. So let's head inside again. Hopefully this went well. There we go. I have a few mil here to take up any slack. Oh yeah, this thing that we cut off, we're talking about 40 grams of the fork weight. So yeah, there we go. Next step, take care of preparing the brakes and get those routed. Right, for the brakes, these are reused from my Echo builds. On the front we have a derailleur brake, on the rear we'll have an Ultegra. I do prefer, I must say, the derailleur ones. I think they work better, or I will say the Ultegra have given me more hassle than the derailleur. So what I like to do is to prepare the hoses and get them mounted to the caliper, and then when that is mounted, I will thread it from the caliper side through the frame and the fork and do the final assembly and the handlebar end. So we have the inserts and the barbs. We need two of those. I have weighed all of these parts as well, so I will put that up on the screen, as well as fill out all those gram, the beautiful numbers in the build sheet below, so you can check that out as well. So the front, I've just prepared some hoses that will eventually be cut as well, but all that will be taken into account in the build sheet, so definitely check that out. And here's the favorite bike tool in the world. Barb insertion and all that mess, hose cutting. Clamp the hose in place, like so. Get the barbin. Make sure it's hit hose. And then we done. Yeah. Need a hose nut and the barb. Little bit of grease. Here we go. And now I have the short hose for the front. Yes, yes. I won't pretend that I have made a mistake of putting the long hose from the front and then realized that I don't have enough hose for the rear. Never happened, promise. Honestly, I should have removed the brake pads just to be safe, but yeah, living on the edge, I guess. There you go, front is done. It's a little bit brake fluid left. That's why I should have removed the brake pads first, but yeah. So, and then whip, done. Hose nut, barb, little bit of grease. There we go. Front area prepped. Now let's see if we can get this through the frame. Now we have a nice and big opening here, so it shouldn't be very hard to get this through. The frame actually came with, what do you call this, those guide tubes, but I had to remove those to weigh the bike, to weigh the frame, of course. It can't be helped, but it usually shouldn't be that hard to get this through. Yeah, already up there. And since this has internal storage, we actually have some guides for the hoses on each side if you were running mechanical. But we only have one hose now, the rear one. So let's see if I can guide this up. Hopefully it shouldn't be that hard. So now we have the rear hose here, and I want to guide this through this guide slide. Oh yeah, that wasn't very hard. So this guide tube is nice and all, but will it be enough to keep this from rattling in this section? And I have a feeling that this might be a bit rattly. So we just cut a small section of rattle prevention here. So yeah, something like that. I hope this won't like interfere or snag with the internal storage when I do that. So yeah, hopefully that will work out. I will report back once I'm seeing this in action. Of course, I had to go and weigh this thing, and this bit is about less than 4 grams, so nothing huge. There, let's see, can we get it to that place we should want it to? Something like that. And of course, we got some titanium hardware here that I will touch temporarily for now. I will apply some TI prep before the final go around. I don't know if I mentioned this, but this frame is for 160 or 180 rotors. So here, without the adapter, they will be for 160 rotors. I wish actually this was for 140 because I don't need 160 at my weight. But I totally understand why they decided to go with the 160, 180. I can't get everything I want here in life. Now here for the fork, here's something interesting. You see you have actually 2 ports on top of the crown here, or above the crown here. And there's actually a routing down here for a dynamo wire if you're going that route. We of course will only use the brake hose. Anyway, this shouldn't be too challenging. I'm hoping I will just have to push this and I will see it come. Oh yes. So a nice slot all the way to the hole, no fishing needed. Can't complain about that. Just as the rear, this fork is set up for 160 or 180 rotors. I will go 160 of course. Just as the rear, I couldn't help myself. And went through the stash, got some titanium bolts. There we go, just as the rear. I will come back to these bolts and apply some TI prep before the final adjustment. Ooh, we're making progress. All right. So the final setup. And I know what you're thinking. I'm asking for this bottle of grease to get all over my floor. I realize that now as well. So let's move this off to the side. Nice layer of grease, both sides there. Yeah, these kind of stands are not, maybe not the best when doing this particular step. When you don't have the upper bearing in place. Grease for everyone. Making quite of a mess here. That's more like it. Now, I know a lot of people like to murder the top of the bearing, like basically weather seal it with grease. I'm going very sparingly on top here because, yeah, I open this up. I know I will open this enough times to not have to worry too much about like weather penetration or whatever you want to call it. I just found when I do a lot of grease there, I have so much to clean up every time I open it up. So I'm gonna go sparingly. Now, I'm not claiming that that is the correct way to do it for everyone, but it's just the way I like to do that. Ooh. There we go. Then we have loosened this little top ring. No, wait a minute. That's not it. The top ring goes there, not over. Like so. And the stem, I don't even know if I mentioned it. The stem is a 100 millimeter stem, because the reach of this frame is actually over 400 millimeters, which basically is the biggest reach I have had on any frame this far, any drop bike at least. So yeah, I'm going down to a 100 millimeter stem. This is standard like 7 degrees one, and I'm actually thinking I might have to go -17 eventually, because the stack, the like the effective stack to the bars will be quite a bit higher than anything I've had basically ever. But we'll see that once I start riding. Since I have this kind of external setup, it's pretty easy to swap stems and stuff like that. So another bonus part there. Actually, before I put the stem on, I'm just gonna put this on. This is my AliExpress expander. Like a good amount of gram saving over the original FSA one. And it's pretty nice. It's like, it has a lip and everything, so it doesn't slide down into the top. And it's, yeah, there is definitely lighter ones out there, but yeah, this will be good enough. Actually, I didn't take into account that lip when I cut this steer now, I just realized, but I still have enough, I think, for the top cap I had in mind, which is this one, also the AliExpress thingamajig, and I hope this will work. Apparently not. Wait a minute. So I can't get the bolt. Wait a minute. What the hell is going on here? Oh, so I actually can't have a bolt that is longer than the expander, because it doesn't go through all the way. Yeah, it bottoms out there. So I think showing the mistakes is as important as showing the successes. So I need a way shorter bolt than this for the top cap. Let's see what I can find in my stash. Yeah, so this is quite funny. I had this, which is a little bit shorter, gold, which I am not a fan of maybe, but even this was too long. So I actually need to, yeah, get a bolt that fits this better. But just for now, so we can continue on building this thing, I'm just going to use a spacer on top. This is not a solution that will be in place for long, but just so we can keep building this. And again, it's not, I will never ride it like this, but for the rest of the build, until I order a little bit of a shorter screw there, this will have to do. And of course, I will update the build list to feature what I'm actually using, the shorter screw, so to speak. Now, for the handlebar, I have my trusty MVAR. It's a 40 centimeter wide with a bit of nice flare. Very comfortable bar coming off my Allied Echo. Very happy with this. Don't really see any reason to change this out for now. And since we're not going to go full internal, I can just route these going under the bar tape and out here, because we have that little slide here. So very easy routing wise. Good times. strap up the hoses to the stem here temporarily till I get everything in place. So my little coffee break right now, it kind of hit me that this is the last chance to actually add some kind of organizing hacks or tricks. I'm just going to put on this short section of shrink tubing just because I can. And I can always remove this, but I can't add it afterwards. So I'm just going to leave it like that and see what happens in the end. Strap this down. All right, so as I tape these cables down, I might just rant away a little bit because I kind of realized I never really spoke about the like overall plan for the build. And if you haven't figured that out, most of the parts that's coming over to this bike is from the Allied Echo build. So just as I didn't want to spend a lot of money on the frame set itself. I didn't want to basically avoid spending a lot of money on new parts as well. So the XCR drivetrain or group set will come over, as well as the Ultegra shift brake levers, cranks as well, which we'll take a look at in a bit. And I gotta say, like, having an integrated handlebar makes everything so much easier, because you don't really have to be that precise with like hose length and stuff like that. You can just basically shove it into the handlebar and forget about it. When you have these kinds of externally routed hoses, if you really want to keep it nice and neat, you kind of need to be pretty precise with the hose length and stuff like that. That's why I want to kind of secure the hoses in place and make sure they don't move that much once start cutting and stuffing stuff like that. Pretty even, Steven. My Ultegra levers coming over from the Echo. A little bit of leftover brake fluid. That's what happens when you try to make everything as empty as possible for the weigh-ins. Now with the hoses at least kind of semi-secure in the position they're meant to be, I just want to do one quick check before I actually cut the hoses, and that's like make sure I can actually move the frame without the brake hose like moving, especially down here in the bottom bracket, so it doesn't, if I were to run like a bottom bracket without the center sleeve, that hose doesn't go up against the spindle. So I'm just going full turn and drop some stuff. Yep. Another way around. I think we are in the clear. Just putting the frame on some untired wheels just to get it leveled, so I can make sure that I have my levers in the right position approximately. Of course, you also have some, even with the external routed hoses, you have some adjustability going, but getting it as close as possible where you want it before is recommended. The problem with my stand is when I have the frame on it, the frame won't be level. So if I try to set my levers angle in the stand, they definitely won't be exactly where I want them. So that's why I put them down on the wheels to make sure it's, yeah, level and nice. But now, back on the stand. Now, the final little crucial step is to get the right length, and yeah, the ideal way would be just to remember every time I do this how much hose I need extra to get into the bottom of the lever, but I never remember to remember that or to write it down or whatever. So what I always end up using is I have a little stump of extra hose that I can push in until it bottoms out there. Then just put the real hose, both are real, but the hose, the actual hose, in line with that. Put a little mark first. No, actually I could have put it a little bit closer. Like there. Remove that little stump. Can you see this without me getting in the way? Line up that stump and do actual cut mark there. Then I should be pretty dialed in to exactly where this hose should end. As I mentioned, when I have a fully integrated bar, everything is fully internal. I just make sure that the hose is not too short. I basically leave it a bit longer than I think I need and basically push it into the bar. And yeah, that way you have a little bit more leeway. But anyway, let's cut this. Like so. Press the barb in like so. I got the hose nut. That was there for storage purposes. Let's see. Yeah, just about right. So get this mounted, and what I recommend, or at least what I do, will be careful to say that my way is the best way. Of course it is, but yeah, people on the internet are a bit sensitive. What I do is I remove this completely, put on the hose nut and the olive, a little bit grease on that olive, like so, and I find this much easier to get into place, not having the lever mounted to the bars. So here's one trick that I do, at least. I don't know how other people do it, but once this starts biting, I will basically flip the lever upside down, because when this starts biting and clamp down on the olive, it's going to want to twist the hose. If you have, well, twist the hose or this, depending on how you look at it. But if you have it the other way around, it's going to want to, yeah, twist the hose and bend stuff in awkward way. But if you have it upside down and tighten it like this, you can still feel it start to want to twist. And when you have this button down and you let go, oh, it kind of want to twist in the right direction. So just 180 degrees makes that whole thing work a little bit better, in my experience. So for now, temporarily, one side done. Yeah, doesn't seem to pull any weird places, and I still have some adjustment range there for the final setup. Good. Now I just need to do the other side, and I know I want to show every single bit, but it's exactly the same as this one, so might be a fast forward section of the other side. Let's go. All right, so that looks, well, pretty decent. Not quite totally symmetric, but hey, man, what can you do? But in my opinion, this is pretty much the hardest, I don't want to call it hard, but the most annoying part of a bike build. After this is set up, everything else is basically just basic assemblies, nothing that hard. Before I forget, I said these are the Ultegra levers, but they have the Dura-Ace titanium clamps because on my Dura-Ace setup I actually have some carbon clamps. So stuff is moving down, and save a few grams here and there is always good. Now there's some brake bleeding to do and bar tape before this cockpit is completely done, but that will happen at the end of the build. And I have a lot of things to say about this whole cockpit and what might happen in the future, but I think we'll save that for later once I actually have ridden this for a bit. So let's move on to the bottom of the bike. Right, so bottom bracket, and the ARI Shafer has a standard BSA bottom bracket, and when it comes to BSA, there's only this option for me. Like standard Dura-Ace BSA bottom bracket, it's unbeatable price, and it's pretty damn lightweight. I think it's like 66 grams. Of course, you will probably see this on screen now, but including the middle sleeve, and you can drop a few more grams if you discard the middle sleeve, but I will use the center sleeve because peace of mind and all that mess. The aluminum surface maybe doesn't look the cleanest, but definitely no paint in the way and stuff like that, so it shouldn't be any problem there. Grease it up real good. And this is the right side. Should I put on my glove for this? I have a proper cup tool for this somewhere. I couldn't fucking find it, so I'll have to use a spanner this time. Oh, that damn change day is a bit in the way. Ideally, tightening the bottom bracket when it's on the wheels pushing down is better, but I don't want to push down and put all the strain on this part. So I'm just going to use the down tube to add a little bit of leverage there. Should be good enough. Well, of course, it's always best to have a torque wrench. But yep, should be fine, should be fine. Now, like I said, the cranks is coming over from Deco as well, and this is the Elise X310 crank with a titanium 24mm spindle, hence the love for BSA bottom brackets. I just want to bring attention to one thing. ARI claims that this can handle chain rings from, what was it, 36 to 52, according to the specs on the homepage. But that is most likely with having like a GRX or an Explorer crank in mind, which has a chain line of, god damn it, now I don't remember all the numbers, but it's around 47.5 or something like that. A standard row crank, like this one has a 44mm. If I miss on some millimeters in there, you have to forgive me. But that I've paired on the Echo with a Garbarook chainring direct mount, and this chainring is actually offset. They offset them in different amounts depending on the size of the chainring. So this is 44. What is imprinted there is an offset of 6.4mm. So that would move the chain line in even further. So 44 minus 6, yeah, you can do the math. But that means that this is kind of a no-go. I was going to mount this temporarily just to show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, here's the problem. This will be too close to the change day. It turns now, but once I put this in the correct spot, it actually hits the chain stay. So yeah, I won't grind it anything more. I do have a solution for this, which is a different chainring, and that chainring is this, because yeah, trying to keeping the cost down here. And what we have here is a 44 Pass Quest chainring. This is 0 offset, so that should be doable, I hope. And to be fair, 44 might be a little bit big in the end, but at least these are not breaking the bank so much, so I can kind of afford to have a couple of different sizes to pick from. I don't know if it's only me, but I'm really happy all this these Chinese brands adopted the erase face or Easton's interface because it's so simple to deal with. Just one lock ring and you're good to go. Only problem is I need to get this to about 40 Newton meters. Can I do this on camera without? There we go. A spacer there. Yeah, it doesn't look half bad, I think. I'll put some fresh grease. Something like that. Set the preload adjuster, and I have one spacer on this side. Put another spacer on that side. Make sure you have that center spacer. Then get this into place. Where did I put my goddamn? There it is. And the crank bolt is also a 40 Newton meter. Yeah, as you can see, we have quite a bit of space now. Oh, to be fair, I haven't put the preload collar in the right place yet, but something like that. Yeah, so plenty of space there. How much is it really? Can I get a 4 mil in between? Not quite. Yeah, but I have at least 3 millimeter clearance, or probably like 3.5 millimeter clearance between the chainring and the chainstay, so that's good. Oh, before I forget, which I almost did, once that preload is in place, don't forget to tighten the lock screw. Yep, no play. Good. Right, derailleur XTR Di2 12-speed, no surprises there. And if you're wondering, if you've seen the last video, the dual spring is back. So yeah, we want the full spring tension for, yeah, I will hopefully get a bit more off-roady rides done on this bike. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to installing the thingamajig, because yeah, it's working. It's almost boring building bikes now. We have no wires to do, but yeah, I know people like not having to do work. I just realized now though, to measure the chain, I need the wheel to go on and the cassette, but I want to make sure I have all the weights for the wheels. So I think we will move over to sort up the wheels completely first, and then come back to the chain length and stuff like that. So apologies for jumping a bit all over the place, but I want to portray this build exactly as how I actually build it. No shortcuts. So let's take care of those wheels. The wheels are my trusty Slayer of Grams wheels. Can you see that sweet laser engraving? Pretty damn light, and I've done a long video on this wheel set as well, so definitely check that out if you're interested to know more about exactly what this is. They have gained a few grams though, since I had to change over to the microspline free hub body, and that added a couple of more grams. I think this set come in at around 1077 grams, something like that. I will of course put that on the screen so you can see for yourself. And that weight is without any tubeless tape or valves. So let's take care of the tubeless tape now. And normally I use some 3M tape, but I haven't really found a good cheap alternative for the width of this, because this is 24 millimeters inner width, and I like to have some tape that are, in that case, like in the 27 width kind of range. And the tape I got for this is Paneracer. Yeah, Paneracer, and this is 27 mil wide. And because it's Paneracer and Japan, it's pretty damn affordable as well, so it doesn't feel like I'm getting ripped off. I know Paneracers can be quite a bit more expensive overseas though, so yeah. Let's see, we have the valve hole there, so I will start taping 1, 2, like here in the middle of 2 spokes off. And since this is proper tubeless tape, a little bit thicker than the 3M stuff I usually use, I can do a single wrap of this, just overlap like 4 spokes around the valve hole. And as you see, I start with a diagonal cut, because then you have a longer, what do you call it? A longer edge along the tape to grip. Doesn't come off as easy in my experience. And then it's just a case of getting it decently centered. Push it down with my thumb in the middle as I go along. I was going to say, I hope I have enough tape, but I realize this is a pretty new roll, so it shouldn't be any problem. Done one wheel before this. Oh. Let's put this. Now we're back around, or where do we have the hole? Where's the this is there. Oh, I did actually start a bit further than I was thinking I would, but it's fine. There's the valve hole and there's the end, so let's do same there, diagonal cut. Always find it a bit tricky to get the end nice and neat, but like so. And then I will use something blunt, like a plastic, what do you call it? Tire lever or something, and work my way around the bead, or press the tape down. Like so. And the other side. Something like that. So, and just like magic, I have the rear one taped up as well. So let's see how much this tape actually added to the total weight. For tires, we're going with Schwalbe G1 Pro RS, 50 mil for now. Of course, I was tempted to go with the 55, but it would be quite a bit overkill because I have so much tarmac to cover whenever I want to go graveling. And yeah, that would add quite a lot of weight. These are definitely not super lightweight by any stretch, but the 55 almost adds like another 100 grams per tire. So yeah, I think this is a good start at least, and we'll see where we go in the future. First, I need to make a little hole for the valve there. something like that. Same on the rear. And for valves, I have some generic valves that I had in my stash. Nothing crazy at all, but it will do the job. Something like that. Let's see. Here we have the rear tire. And the funny thing about these, I noticed once I was looking at the rotation direction. Where do we have it? We have rotation front there and rotation rear there. So depending on if this is going front or back, you basically flip the tire, which is a interesting idea. Never thought about that before. So this is the rear. Which side? So rotation rear is going to be this way. Actually, for this step, I prefer to have my rubber gloves. I help with everything. That means I should not need any tire levels. Yeah, it was pretty painless. Now, I haven't used any kind of soapy water or what I like to use, the bead wax, but let's see if I can get some air in these tires. Yep. Yeah, it was pretty painless. 20 psi. I don't think this is super airtight now, but I haven't added a sealant yet. And I will kind of wait with that until, yeah, it's time to ride. So I'm just going to set up the front tire as well, and then get the cassette on so we can fix the chain length. So, Editor Dork here, just chiming in because this is basically the only two mistakes I made while recording this video, and I did them back to back. The first one was I apparently forgot to press record when I was inflating the rear tire. It wasn't really much to see there, basically the same thing as the front, so yeah, it's forgivable. The second mistake was this. You don't hear any sound because I apparently forgot to press record on the mic as well. Well. Now what I think I was yapping on about in this clip was the cassette, of course, that's going on the rear wheel. As for assembly, I just apply a light layer of grease on the freehub body because that's what I always do, and I always get some comments, why the hell would you do that? But I always put grease between metal to metal interfaces, no matter what it is. But yeah, if you don't want to, it's okay, you don't have to, but that's what I do. And this is the previous generation XT cassette, the M8100, and not the M8200 because, yeah, saving money on all that stuff. And this is what I already had on the Echo. But they're all compatible with each other, no issues there. The difference really between the M8100 and 8200 is that the smallest cog on the new one is a 9-tooth, while here it's a 10-tooth. Doesn't really make that much difference to me, so yeah, I'm sticking with this. Obviously going with an XTR cassette, the M90-100 or the 9200 for that matter, would be quite a substantial weight saving, probably around 100 grams or so. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the future there. Now, let's go back to the original audio. So since this is quite a bit longer chainstay than my Echo. I actually got one of the longer chains for this. So this is a 138 link chain. I thought I might as well go with a new chain. And yeah, the way you get the correct length is pretty much familiar to most people. The only difference is we're gonna add a few more links than we normally do with a road setup. I can't get it quite over that last little, so I need to back off one tooth. Measure twice, cut once, as they say. There it meets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, it meets there. So 1. This is the first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will be this one actually. We will cut at the 6th length. Length. Could of course I remove the chain and done this off the bike, but then I need to set up the camera again and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm gonna do it like this. Actually, I still need to pull this chain off because I need to weigh it after it was cut. God damn it. I need to keep those receipts coming. Right, now we can get it into place. Right, so the B screw is not quite in the place it should be, so let's take care of that first. Since this is set up for the road cassette experiment in the last video, this is way off. That's more like it. Chain is so damn dry at the moment, can't really hear. I'm just gonna apply a bit of drip wax. To get it started. Right, a few hours later the drip wax has kind of settled in, so now I can actually hear if there's any cog rub, which you need to do when you do the indexing. And of course, when it comes to indexing, putting it chain in the 5th cog, going into adjustment mode and just adjusting it like that is the quickest way. But just to show you what kind of adjustment I will do, I will connect it through the app. But don't get it twisted, you don't need to use the app to index the gear. You can just use put the derailleur in adjustment mode by holding this until this lights yellow, I think it is. All right, so I actually see I have an update on the rear derailleur, but I'll leave that for now. So going to maintenance and rear shifting unit. It's currently at +5, so let's see. Yeah. I'm going to max this out. Yeah, they're starting to hear the somewhere around there. So I'm going to move it down 5 clicks. So I am +9. And that's always my starting point. And if I feel something is off, I will do that kind of last adjustment out on the road. We'll just run through the gears. See? Would have been a lot easier to do with the pedal attached to the crank, but all in due time. Yeah, this seems fine for now. Man, everything is so simple these days. No wires and everything. It's almost boring. But anyway, let's move on to the next part. And what should we do? I think we should tackle the brake bleeding. You should always use the bleed blocks, not use the pads and a spacer, because depending on how much worn the pads is, you might overload the system with the brake fluid. So always use the proper bleed blocks. I see one thing that I forgot about. Maybe you've been screaming to yourself, what the hell is this? It's gonna be like a big ass opening here for no apparent reason. And actually there's something that's going on there. So let's do that now before I drive anyone crazy. Actually, I might have to unscrew the caliper for that. This should simply go around the hose and... Oh, yeah, that was simple and easy. We have a hole here as well that I forgot to plug, and yes, this is included with the frame. Now, of course, I put this on the scales as well, so yeah, no cheating. So I'm assuming it just will plug like so. Not the neatest fit, I will admit, but it's better than leaving it up, or yeah. Okay, let's continue on with the bleed. Now I have a big park tool bleed kit, which is way overkill since I only use Shimano anyway. If I were to rethink this, I will probably buy just the official Shimano bleed kit, but yeah, I have to use what I have. One thing I will recommend very strongly, if you have the new 12-speed Shimano calipers, you get the hoses or the new kits that have this fitting. It makes everything so much easier. You have the bleed port, it just fits so nicely and doesn't pop off by mistake. So very good, very good. And on top here we have the bleed port screw. Well, this was a bit premature. We need to fill a syringe with the brake fluid before we attach this. But let's set up the front first. Open up the bleed screw. And attach the bleed funnel. Like so. Now let's prepare a syringe and go back to the caliper side. Right, finally start to run out of brake fluid. How long has this lasted me? 10 years maybe? I don't know. Oh, have a nice setup there. Attach that. Seat stay is... So since this system is totally dry now, this is why I will use a syringe to push the fluid from the caliper side up to the funnel. When you buy a brand new kit, including hoses and everything, there might actually be already fluid in the system. So then you can do like a gravity build without the syringe. But since this is totally empty, see if you can... Maybe I'm just gonna push this and try to keep the... Oh, and it's bubbling up there at the top. And there, it started to fill up the funnel. So at the end here, I'll just pull back a bit and see if there's some bubbles I can squeeze out of the caliper. Like so. So if you can get those bubbles to rise up basically and release them from the system. And keep an eye out up on the funnel so you don't drag in air again there. Then push it back in. No excessive force, just gently push it back in and right. I think we're good for now. Just gonna close this temporarily. I guess this is a kind of a luxury item for that Park Tool bleed kit. This little syringe holder. Oops. Put it back there. Right. So let's move up to the top and see. All right, with that done, I'm just gonna go up here and squeeze the levels a couple of times. Try to get out any extra bubbles. As you can see, there's still some left in there. And at this stage, to squeeze out the last ones, it's just a matter of tilting the bike. And I realized you can't see that, so hold on. God damn, it's not easy to be your own cameraman sometimes. Hopefully you see what happens now. You can see we still have some bubbles in, and tilting the frame up and down a bit. By squeezing the lever usually gets the last couple of bubbles out. And by the way, if I didn't mention it, I did close up the bleed screw on the caliper side. And since the rear brake is so much longer, I mean the hose so much longer, there's a little bit more work to get that fully cleared compared to the front brake. So once there's not many air bubbles seemingly wanting to come out anymore, I'll do one more thing. And it's that put the pressure on the brake lever, open the rear bleed port real quick and close it again. Like so. And the front lever goes to the bottom. And then start pumping again. And now it's starting to feel very firm. Do another tilt, see if there's any bubbles still want to come out. And I realize this is off camera now. God damn it. I had one more bubble poking its face out. Do the same once again. Grab the brake lever, open real quick and close, and then pump. Yeah, now we have a nice firm feeling. Damn it, I keep remembering stuff I forgot to mention. But if you're like me, coming with the shift levers moving over from an older bike, make sure you reset the free stroke adjustment. To be fair, resetting the reach is also a good idea, but it's not as crucial as resetting the free stroke. I never really touched the free stroke adjustment in the first place, but yeah, it's always good to reset everything before doing this. Right, I think we're done with the rear for now. Put the stopper back in, so once we remove this, we won't get too much brake fluid all over the bike. Actually, before I remove this completely, I'm just gonna prepare the front brake so I can just move it over there, be a little bit more efficient. That way I can just pop it over to the front and not waste this brake fluid. So before wiping anything off, I'm just gonna put the brake plug, not the brake screw, brake port, brake screw, bleed screw, god damn it, English, in place. And don't over tighten this because it's gonna be pain in the ass if you manage to strip the threads on this screw, or strip the head, I mean. Wonder if it's time to buy a new cover for this. It's a little bit tacky. Seems a little bit worn. All right, just make sure this is closed. Move that over to the front. Now when pulling this out, I usually just have a paper towel at hand and pull a bit on the syringe to suck away any extra fluid that might pop out around the nipple. So, and it shouldn't be so nasty around here. Pop back the little rubber plugs. And then move over to the front caliper, which is, yeah, basically the same thing, but maybe a little bit easier because the brake line is a bit shorter. But I think we'll do a speed lapse to cover that one. All right, now we have both the front and the rear. Pretty damn stiff and nice. Sometimes if you do kind of the bleed a bit of like half-ass, if you want to call it that, and the next day it kind of feels a bit more spongy again, just do a quick gravity bleed. We'll remove that last little bit of air that's probably trapped somewhere in there, and we'll be good to go. So it could be worthwhile if you're experiencing some sponginess after the first bleed. Right, let's get the brake pads back in. Just a quick little clean to be on the safe side. Oh, and look at that. Another one of those rubber plugs going with the wind. It's amazing that I have managed to not lose any of those this far. But basically that always happens when I try to clean the caliper. And a safety clip. Safety first. Nah. Wait first. No, sorry. Okay, so that's in place. So I was gonna say, let's put the wheels back in and align the calipers for that, but I realized I haven't even put the brake rotors on yet, so that will be the next step. I don't really think I need to explain or show how to fasten out a disc rotor, but at least I want to just mention what I'm using. So look at this. This is the Caliper 160. This is a brand new one, and I just realized that they have kind of changed the branding as well. This is the old branding, I think, unless I somehow managed to pick up some fakes or whatever, but shouldn't be. So brand new 160 for the front, and I will use slightly used one for the rear that still has some proper life left in it. And for the bolts, I will use the standard bolt that comes with the rotor, so nothing special there. So there's definitely a potential weight saving going with some lighter bolts. But this will work for now, and they come prepped with some Loctite as well. So the last little tightening with a torque wrench. All right, good to go. All right, try to do some TI prep then. I just have some basic finish line TI prep. Doesn't need to be that crazy. The amount of times I mess around with these bolts, there's basically no chance I leave enough time for them to seize up, but might as well err on the safe side. First of all, don't forget to pump the lever to extend the pistons a little bit. Now you probably heard about all the different ways to center calipers in the classic folded business card or whatever, and you also have those small shim tools that you can use, but lately I've just been sticking to going by eye, especially when you have a white sheet underneath there. You can really place that rotor in the middle of the pads without much issues. I have bigger issues finding the bolt. And tighten that. And that one as well. Yep. Good. Simple and easy. Sometimes those analog instruments in your face actually works pretty damn nice. A little bit of TI prep on the bolts on the front as well. Air on the side of caution, is that the saying? All right, that is pretty ridiculous. I didn't even do anything in there. Dead center. Actually haven't pumped out the pistons yet. Oh, yeah. Seriously. Dead center without me even trying. That is pretty ridiculous. So I can just tighten this down, I think. Of course, there's no air in the tire. That's why it looked a bit wobbly, if you're wondering. Right, so this is the Elite 1 carbon clamp I was talking about in the beginning. Actually, really surprised of how nice this is. And so we have a slot on both sides of this. It doesn't really matter which way we put it. I'm just going to put it the way the original one came. The Elite 1 seat post, of course. On top of that, my Burke saddle, my padded Burke, that definitely have got some nice patina going on there. Might as well use some leftover carbon paste I have, THM even. And it's going to be quite close to the max insertion, or minimum insertion, I mean. So I don't really need to go this high as I did now. I just temporarily put that in place for now. I'm of course going to be a little bit more nuts with the actual saddle height. Use my lasers. More on that in a bit. All right, we're reaching the final sprint, if you want to call it that, I don't know. But let's take care of the handlebars, and the handlebar tape I'm using is, as always, most super light, which is this, and I'm gonna put both this before and then the cutoff on the scale so we can see exactly how many grams. I will also include 2 extra strips because I prefer to have a little bit more girth on my tops, so I will add 2 strips, or 1 strip on each side underneath, just for a little bit of extra grip. Not grip, but you mean what I mean, girth. I don't care about the length as long as it's nice and girthy. And when it comes to tips, having one of these clamps in hand is always good when you need to stop and do some adjustments or whatever. So I always have this in handy. And of course, I will not use the included bar end plugs. I got my 3D printed Lucendi plugs that I will use here as well. So let's get into this. All right, so let's make sure I don't throw this away because we need to weigh that again. Same with the backing tape. don't forget. And if you see, even though this is ambi handlebars, it doesn't have those, you know, the cone plugs or whatever, because when I got this, I was still using the Di2 junctions here, so that's why those are cut off. But that's all good, because then I can use my even lighter Lisendi plugs instead. And even though this is very, oops, yeah, that was bound to happen. So even though this is pretty light tape, it's actually 3 millimeters thick, so it's very comfortable as well. That's why I really like this particular tape. So now I'm going to use my clamp just to hold that in place. And just make sure I can get my Lisendi plug in there nice and neatly. So sometimes when I have a little bit of issues, because I don't want to really crush this plug, this Lisendi plug, just for now, I was going to use the included Mose plug just to get everything in place. So I'm just going to leave the Mose plug in there for now, and having this plug making a bit more room, and then I can just switch out for the Lisendi plug in the end. Continue on here. I know a lot of people likes to do the figure 8. I prefer actually to use this extra little piece you always get with them and do this instead. Just because this is a little bit less bulky for me, at least for this handlebar. I had handlebars like the Avian Canary, not the Canary, the Avian Paris, for example, that is so damn narrow. So actually, then I would use the figure 8 instead, just to actually build up some bulk. Right, a quick stop there again. Put an extra strip underneath here. Clamp that in place, get this cover on just to see everything is nice and neat. Actually, there's quite a bit tape left, so I can be a bit more generous with the wrap from here. Get it a bit tighter, build up some girth. Need that girth. Something like that. Now I need to find my end tape. Holy crap. I've run out of the thin tape or the narrow tape that I always use to do the end wrap, so I will have to use normal classic electrical tape this time. Well, luckily this MV bar has a pretty neat like line, so it's very easy to actually cut this. Along that line, pretty nice and neat. Just gonna take up that front bit a bit, front tip a bit. Just take off that front tip a bit. Damn English. Something like so. Bummer that I didn't realize I was out of the narrow tape. But can't be helped. Can always redo this some other time. No, I'm not gonna lie, this is not the best tape job I've done in my life, but it will have to do for now. And for the other side, let's do another speed wrap, I think. Right, so tape in place. Like I said, maybe not the best job I've done ever, but it will work. Actually, it's time to remove this as well. All right, let's see if I can actually get the Sandy plug in place. I might have put a bit too much overhang here, actually. That's why it was so hard. But with the other plug, that's more like it. Oh, there are two nice hollow Sandy plugs. As light as we can get. Yeah. Good. So for the bolt gauges, I will use my Arundel mandibles, and for the down tube, I will have this side entry one, and the seat tube will have a normal one. Here they basically sit flush, so I can use slightly shorter bolts. These are like 10 millimeter bolts, but here the thread starts a bit deeper into the frame, so I needed a slightly longer bolt. Still very light aluminum bolts, so let's get those into place. So as you can see, this funky shape on the down tube actually makes it that you can put the cages super low, which is good for me. Yeah, it's almost down to the bottom. Let's double check that with an actual bottle just to be sure. That is crazy close. Oops. That is actually nuts. There's probably like a 0.5 millimeters gap between here and this, well, tool keg in this case. But the reason I wanted to try that is because I still want to have as much space above here, so I could put a frame bag here if I wanted to. That will, I'm pretty sure that means I will have to mount the cages on the top. You can actually flip this whichever way you want. So if you don't run a C-tube bowl cage for some reason, you can actually flip this and have that cage coming a lot further down. But in this case, we definitely need to put it, sorry, this way. Need to open that first. Need to put it that way. Let's see. Yeah, the upper holes will clear that pretty good. Pretty nice that I can actually just remove this and install it directly on the trap door. Yeah, that's pretty nifty. All right, so while we are in this area, let's get those pedals sorted as well. And I will use my XTR 9100 pedals, and these are modded with the Meti titanium axles, and I done a full video on this mod, but I will say if you're looking for some light pedals now, the new Wolf Tooth Delete pedals might be the most obvious option there. Very expensive though, so for now this will be what I will continue on using. Also, if you have these kind of carbon cranks that are a little bit recessed for the thread, definitely use that included what do you call it, pedal washer, unless you are one of those weird freaks that can feel 1 millimeter extra Q factor. So I need to get the bike ready for tomorrow's premiere ride. And just one last tip for this build, I guess, if you want to call it that. And if you're wondering, my sealant of choice for the last couple of years has been Orange Seal. And this is what I use to inject the sealant. And this is, well, refill basically. But on my injector bottle, I just have two marks here. Here I have a road, and the upper mark here is for those bigger ass tires. If I look at the instructions, Orange Seal says like 27.5 and 29-inch tires, which I assume they mean mountain bike tires. That would be about 88 millimeters and up. So from 88 up to 120 milliliters, something like that. 50 mil tires in my case, so I don't really think I need to go to that 88. I always err on the caution of little less sealant because, yeah, in my experience, I'm riding so tame stuff. I'm not too worried about that. But anyway, that's I leave that decision up to you. This mark is 80 milliliter, and when I put this on a scale and measure the actual weight of it, it comes up to about 75 grams, I think it was. It would be enough, at least for the first time. I can always add more. It keeps the guesswork out of the equation once you have just this simple mark set up. Anyway, let's get it into the tire. And I know if you're coming from the mountain bike world, you probably just pour it into the tire before you even seat the thing. But I don't. I keep my tires seated. If I had a garage, that I wouldn't be so afraid of messing up the floor with sealant all over the place. Maybe then, but yeah, having the tires seated is just a bit safer in my opinion. I put the valve so the sealant will go down and not back up again. Did I say I always take out the valve core, if you didn't know. I'll cover back. Ooh, a little squabbly, squabbly, squabbly. There, I could hear a little bit of a psht going silent. So yes, same thing on the rear wheel, and I think we should be pretty much ready to go ride. Whee! All right, so I have sorted out this situation as well. Got a slightly shorter screw for that, and when I was at it, just a generic carbon cap as well, because why not? So I can remove this now. Something like so. See, so we don't have any headset play. Feels good. Turn up the stem. And I know most of these stems are like, they say like max 5 or 6, but I don't need to go to the max just because it said so. In my experience, 4 is more than enough. Oh, yeah, I like to look at that better. Now, I have not talked about the one thing yet that I've been struggling with, so to speak, and that is what to do about a Garmin mount, because of this handlebar, I have so little space on the side of the stem, so I can't use like a band mount. The other option is, of course, then to use one of these stem bolts mounts, and I've been looking around to find a cheap light option, and there wasn't really anything out there that tickled my fancy. But just to have something, this was cheap enough for like an experiment kind of deal. So this will replace the bottom 2 screws, hopefully, with these that were included in all that mess. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Of course, I need to recalculate the weight of the stem then, but yeah, everything will be correct down in the build sheet. Let's see, this will actually work. Always with the Uno stem. Max out the top bolts and then tighten the bottom. Should I remove the mount underneath first? That would be a lot easier. That should be a little bit easier to mess around with, and I can use my Something like that. Definitely not the most beautiful solution, but we'll see how it works. Hopefully it'll be okay. I do like that the GoPro mount or the light mount or whatever you want to call it has a proper threaded side, so I don't need a separate nut. Yeah, better than nothing for now. And hopefully my 1040 will fit. Yeah, no problem. I will say, no, actually the angle is not too bad, but it feels like it sits pretty high. But yeah, for the price of a few dollars, I guess I can't complain for now. Like I said, there might be something happening with the whole cockpit in the future. Anyway, all right, so I know the picture is pretty dark now, but that's because I want to show that I have a laser guide going here. And basically, I'm just using this to set both the saddle height and the saddle setback. And in my case, let's measure along the laser line, and I should be at about 72.5, which I am. Oh, and make sure that line is in the middle of the crank spindle. I know the camera is not quite aligned with this because that would block the line, so you have to trust me, but this is spot on 5 centimeters setback. And while I can give you some other measurements while we're at it, I have about 6.5 centimeters drop. And you have to point out that it's quite a bit higher than my road bike, which is around 9.5 or almost 10, I think. So there's definitely some potential for lowering this front end if I can in the end, but we'll see what happens. But now, enough. Finally, I can go out and take this for a test spin. Ooh, yes! Now, how's that for a long video? Holy shit. Yeah, let's wrap this up real quick. And I have had a few very fun rides out on this bike to start with, without any camera gear, because yeah, the best way to ruin a good ride is to bring cameras on it. So yeah, I just wanted to enjoy the bike, which I have done very much. I actually went out to get some action shots, but I ended up going over the bars before I even started and kind of sprained my wrist. So I'm not in any shape to do any action-filled filming for the time being, and I don't want to delay this video. It's not a crucial part of the video, so yeah, either way, I don't do bike reviews, as you know. But if you're one of those people that just need those kind of reviews, I would definitely suggest to keep an eye on Ben Delaney. I think he has a review coming out on this eventually. That being said, I will do more videos regarding this and hopefully get some action shots in there. I have this cockpit. I want to sort out a little bit neater solution. But yeah, for those wondering, it's a hell of a fun bike to ride. The only real thing that's kind of disappointing is actually the internal frame storage. Because while it looks pretty big and hefty, it doesn't really fit what I expected it to. Well, like the basic tools, and for that matter, I did sort out a little pouch. This is like 500 yen on Amazon, a pen case, where I basically just remove the puller so it wouldn't rattle with just some whatever this was, I don't remember. And that I can fit all my tools and stuff like that, no issues. I can easily get in spare tubes and stuff like that as well, so that's all nice and good. But I was hoping I could actually fit in one of those electric pumps in here, or maybe an action camera. That will not fit. The opening is simply not wide enough. So that was a bit of a bummer, but yeah, you can't have everything. I can easily stuff like a wind jacket or vest up in the here and still have room for the tools down there. So it's not the end of the world, but yeah, a slight bit disappointed there maybe. Now, as for the weight, I hope you've been checking out the build sheet down below, but the complete bike on my way hang cheap as a hanging scale. And you might say that's not even light at all, but you need to take into account that gravel tires are heavy. If I were to put 28mm road tires on this, this will actually go below 7 kilos. So it's still a decent weight, nothing crazy, and that was not really my main aim for this. Don't tell Lord Weenie. But yeah, we'll have a lot of fun in the coming year with this, I hope, and do some more adventuring. Anyway, high time to end this video now. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, yeah, might catch you in the next one. Peace.